This past year in Egypt, unfortunately, we have not seen much of a change for the Christians in Egypt. While we have seen some changes in the rhetoric, there has been some positive rhetoric encouraging religious tolerance. Unfortunately, that has not translated to safety or protection or equality for Christians in Egypt. Some brief examples would be, for example, just this past Good Friday, I believe it was in Elminia, there was a tent that Christians were using to worship that was burned on Good Friday. And I remember looking at the pictures and reading the story and seeing the Christians moving forward, marching forward, and still continuing with their Good Friday services over the ashes. And instead of getting a reaction from the government, who's responsible for this, let's make them accountable, there was nothing.
We are right now in the First Amendment room at the National Press Club. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution gives people the freedom of speech and assembly, the freedom of the press, and the freedom to practice their own religion and not have your government tell you what religion you should practice. The United States of America, the Founding Fathers were so smart, this was so important to the birth of our nation, that they put this in the very First Amendment of a document that's only been amended 26 times. But it's not in the 12th Amendment, it's not in the 22nd Amendment, it's not in the 26th Amendment, it's in the very First Amendment of the United States Constitution. That's how important religious freedom is to this nation. We shouldn't tolerate nations who don't respect other people's practice of their religion.
And I believe that the only way to effect change, to make change possible, is to change this master narrative in Egypt. Growing up in Egypt, the master narrative was simple. Muslims are superior to Christians. Christianity is bad, Islam is good, and because Islam is good and is superior and is righteous, Muslims should correct Christians. This was what I grew up in. Now you can take this narrative and change it. Say, no, we are not foreigners. We are the owners of the land. We are the descendants of the ancient Egyptians. All right. Sometimes the political situation does not enable you to do this because you are silenced. And this is the problem. You're not allowed to speak for yourself. You're not allowed to say your story, although your story is the right version.
In Egypt, we have seen how extremists have intended to harm Christians, their churches, and their property. ISIS declared, as everyone probably knows, Christians their favorite prey, and have carried out large-scale, multiple murderous attacks on Copts. The latest one on buses carrying Christian pilgrims to a monastery in Minya last year. So for these reasons and more, we will continue to call on the government of Egypt to protect its Christians and their churches.
Just a few weeks ago in April, President el-Sisi visited the White House and visited with President Trump. I used that as an opportunity to send President Trump a note before his meeting, urging that he raise concerns about the plight of Christian minorities in Egypt with President el-Sisi when they were together. I was pleasantly surprised to receive a call from President Trump after President el-Sisi left the Oval Office. He told me that he read parts of my letter to President el-Sisi and that he discussed the need of that point and the importance that the United States put on religious tolerance and religious freedom around the world.
We will continue to call on the government of Egypt to protect its Christians and their churches. However, protection is not the same thing as equality. Equality means equal rights for all citizens. And so I think it's a very appropriate theme for your conference. An Egypt where all have equal rights regardless of beliefs, and where all receive equal protection of law without any discrimination. This will be a stronger Egypt, an Egypt that's also a better strategic partner for the United States. Equality gives dignity and is deserved by everyone. It's not a gift to be given from the stronger to the weaker. So the United States calls for equality in Egypt and around the world.